Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ajnana Timirandhasya, Jnananjana Shalakaya, Chakshurun Militam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tumeva Madha cha Pita Tvameva, Tumeva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tumeva Vidyadravinam Tvameva, Tumeva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma, Tumeva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma, Tumeva Sarvam Amriteshwari Ma. Om Amriteshwari Nama. Let's begin with a short meditation. Kindly sit straight and make sure your spinal column, vertebral column is erect. Because even the slightest bend creates a lot of thoughts in your mind. That's why it is recommended to keep the spinal column straight, and also cuts down the lethargy. Slowly close your eyes. Breathe deeply a couple of times, relaxing every time you breathe out. And feel the full relaxation as you breathe out completely. And now we'll chant Om 3 times. As we chant Om, imagine the sound of Om to arise from your navel area and visualize the vibrations of the sound of Om to cleanse your body, your mind, and your intellect. Now kindly take a deep breath. Feel the relaxation and the vibration of Om in each and every cell of your body. And now as you breathe in, before that just bring your awareness on your breathing. Breathing normally with full awareness of each and every inhalation and exhalation that passes through your body. And now as you breathe in, chant the mantra, the syllable Ma, silently along with your in-breath. Hold your breath just for a few seconds, not too long. And then when you breathe out, chant Om silently along with your exhalation, out breath. So Ma when you breathe in and Om when you breathe out. So Ma, and hold your breath for a few seconds. Om Ma. Om Ma. Om. Continue for some time like this. Slowly and slowly the reverberations of Ma and Om become more and more subtle. And feel the vibrations of Ma and Om along with your inhalation and exhalation. Now feel the love and the light in your heart. And feel your heart expanding, encompassing the whole world. As the heart opens and blossoms into a beautiful flower, feel that love and compassion flowing out from your heart. Now we'll pray for the whole world, for the peace and the welfare of the whole world. And as you pray, imagine a ray of light going out from your heart, just like the rays of the sun. And the light being filled with love and light and compassion and peace. And as the light falls on each and every being, imagine they also become more loving, more peaceful, and more radiant, and more blissful. And while imagining so, we'll chant the Loka Samastha prayer 9 times. Om Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Dhyayamo Dhvlabhagunthanapatim Tejomayim Naishtikim Snigdha Pangavilokinim Bhagavatim Mandasmidashrimukhi Valsalyamritavarshinim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapinim Shamangi Madhusaikta Suktim Amridanandatmikam Ishwarim Om Narayanam Patmabhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Jatatputram Parasharam Cha Vyasam Shugam Gaudapadam Mahandam Govinda Yogindram Adhasya Sishyam Sri Shankaracharyam Adhasya Patmapadam Cha Hastamalakam Cha Shishyam Tam Todakam Vartikakaryamanyan Asmat Gurun Sandadamanadosmi Om Aneka Janma Samprapta Karma Bandhavidahini Atma Jnana Pradhanena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha. In the last session, we saw that Bharata, King Bharata, after having his attachment to the deer, who was born as a deer, and then after that, the deer was quite aloof, kept aloof and kept going only to the ashramas. And because of that, it did not fall down, and then in the next birth, it was born as Jada Bharata, the next incarnation of sage Bharata or King Bharata. And in that incarnation, we saw that Jada Bharata did not react to anything, whatever came his way. He just accepted it the way. And whatever was given to him, whether it was cooked or half-cooked or uncooked, he just ate it without any complaint. And he lived with whatever he had. And as we saw one day as he was walking, the palanquin carrying the king, Raghugana, was passing by, and one of the captain of the team of the army saw this person who was very well built, so he also inducted him into the team of carriers. And as they were walking, Jada Bharata was walking very carefully so that he would not tread on any of the insects or kill anything. So the speed was quite reduced than what King Raghugana was used to. And not only that, it was having a wavy effect that he would stop and he would move forward. So he got upset, and he was asking the captain as to what was the cause. And the captain said, it is this new guy who has joined us. And then Raghugana gave him a piece of his mind, scolded him, and said that the defect of one in a company is likely to affect the work of all who have to work with him. And then he started making fun of Jada Bharata even after his harsh tones that Raghugana was not happy about the pace, and he was making fun of him, saying that, oh, you are so tired and you have been carrying the palanquin single-handedly for such a long distance, and all these things. And as he was making fun of Bharata, Jada Bharata, what happened was he was also saying that you are a living corpse. And he said, "Are you belittling me? Who is your master and violating my command?" And he was saying that I will give you a treatment. And so he slowly, in one of the commentaries, they say that Rahugana actually got out of the palanquin and kicked Bharata. And Jadabharata, who was totally unaffected by all those things. And he replied to the king, your ridicule has relevance provided there is a thing called weight for one to bear, and provided there is a destination for the traveler to reach, and provided there is a corpulence for the jiva to be carried. Wise men, however, do not assent to such a proposition, as weight, body, distance, etc. are all the effects of Maya, and therefore false, and as I am the spirit and not the body, your words of ridicule becomes pointless. And he went on to elaborate, corpulence, leanness, disease, hunger, thirst, fear, quarrel, desire, old age, sleep, attachment, anger, pride, grief are all true only in regard to one born with a body, but not to me who I am the Atman. O king, the state of being a living corpse is not characteristic, special to me. It applies to everything that is in an effect. For everything that is an effect is subject to birth and death, to a beginning and to an end. As for the charge of violating your command, O worshipful one, it would have been true if the relation between the master and servant were permanent. So here, now Jada Bharata is answering, but he's answering the king with extreme humility. He's not getting angry. And so when the king was saying all these things, saying that, are you belittling me? And so he's saying that you are a living corpse, a Jivan Amrita. That is, Mrita is dead person and Jivan is an individual soul who is dead. So out of his extreme humility, he is answering. And he says, your ridicule has relevance only if one has to bear a weight. In one sense, he's saying that I'm not bearing any weight at all, as far as I'm concerned. And then he says, also, if there is a distance, there is a traveler to reach, and there is a corpulence, there is a weight for the jiva to be carried. So, as far as he is concerned, he has reached the height of Brahman, in which, there is no jiva, and so there is no weight to bear, because he feels that all the weight that is being bared by him is nothing but the Atman who is bearing it. And because his individuality is gone, the Atman is bearing the weight. And he has no destination, because the Atman does not go anywhere. And there is no traveler, because he has reached where a living being is supposed to reach. A human being is supposed to reach that goal. So he has already reached that goal of self-realization. And he says, wise men, however, do not assent to such a proposition as weight, body, distance. And they say it's all the effects of Maya, and therefore it's false because it doesn't exist, because it's Maya. And as I am the spirit, that's the Atman, and not the body, your words of ridicule also becomes pointless. Because you are ridiculing the body. You're ridiculing the mind, or you're saying some things about the mind and the body. So how can it affect me? And he says, this corpulence, leanness, disease, hunger, etc., are only in regard to one who is born with a body. So these all are the changes that affect a body, but not to me, who am the Atman. So I am the Atman, the Supreme Atman. That Aham Brahmasmi. He knows that I am the Brahman. So how can it affect me? And he says the state of being a living corpse. Earlier he was ridiculed, and King Rahugana had called him a corpse, living corpse. So he says, when you call me a living corpse, that is not a character that is special to me. Because, he's in fact, he's making fun of everybody except him. He's saying it affects everybody. Why? Because your body is subject to birth, death. There is a beginning, there is an end. And he says, as far as when you said that I am violating your commands, he says, it would have been true if the relation between the master and the servant. If I had accepted to be your servant, that would have been true. Or if I had accepted you as a master. But he says, by the change of fortune, the master can become the servant, and the servant can become the master. So he says, except for the worldly convention, I find no reason for the distinction between the master and the servant. So who is the master and who is the servant here? Still, if you feel you are the king, you order me what I am going to do. And you said that, oh, king, I was behaving like a mad person. So he says, oh, brave king, if my behavior is as a madcap or a dunce, is the result of my establishment in my nature as the Atman, what change can your punishment effect in me? So also, if I am really a confirmed lunatic or a dunce, your attempt to reform me by punishment will be like powdering a powdered stuff once again. So you have to remember these things, because there is an argument coming later between Rahugana and Jadabharata. So he's saying that, you call me a madcap. So if you punish me, what is it going to happen? Because I'm already established in Atman. Or suppose I'm a confirmed lunatic. Does the punishment will reform me? And it will be like, he's saying, like powdering a powdered stuff once again. So what effect can it have? And Sri Shuka said, having thus made a non-controversial reply, that sage who was full of peace and who was no longer identifying himself with the body, continued to carry the palanquin as the king as before, in order to exhaust his prarabdha karma. So why was he carrying the palanquin of the king? To exhaust his prarabdha karma. So he just continued to do so without any complaint. So one big lesson is, when karma comes to us, of course, when good karma comes to us, we don't complain, saying that, God, why did you give me such good karma? Only when suffering comes. When we enjoy, when we have happiness, we don't complain to God saying, God, why did you give me happiness? Only why did you not give me suffering? But when suffering comes, then we ask this question, oh God, why do you make me suffer? So here, he's taking both suffering and his good karmas as his prarabdha karmas, and he's not reacting to neither one of them. So he says, I'm doing this just to, he's doing it as if that he has to exhaust his prarabdha karma. That is his karma, that which he has to go in his body. Oh, descendant of the Pandavas. Who is the descendant of the Pandavas here? So here we have to understand Lord Shuka is addressing Parikshit. That's why he said, oh, descendant of the Pandavas. Because Lord Shuka is telling the story to Parikshit. And at this stage, the mind of the king Rahugana, the king of Sindhu and Sauvira, was filled with faith. And he derived the fitness to inquire about the supreme truth. Hearing the words of Bharata, based on scriptural texts and powerful enough to cut the knot of egotism, that is ahankara, Rahugana gave up his pride of being a king and hurriedly came down from the palanquin, prostrated himself before that great one and said, who are you, traveling incognito in this form? Among the famous ascetics like Dattatreya and others, who could you possibly be? You bear the holy thread, indicating that you are a Brahmana. Whose son are you? Which is your place? How do you happen to be here? Am I to understand that you are Mahavishnu's incarnation, Kapila himself, come here to bless us? So, here, there is a transformation that happens in the mind of Rahugana, the king Rahugana. And he was the king of Sindhu and Sauvira, the two countries. You have to just imagine. So how much ego he should have. But when he heard the words of Jada Bharata, what happened? A transformation happened. And what happened? So because of this transformation, he was fit enough to inquire about the supreme truth. What are those qualities? One is humility. He became humble. And the next one was faith. So he was filled with faith. First he had humility, and then he had faith. And faith in what? That this person is not an ordinary person. This person is somebody who speaks about the truth. And where was King Rahugana going? He was going to meet this great sage Kapila. So he was on his way to meet the sage Kapila. So what happened was, he's saying he gave up his pride of becoming a king, of being a king. And so he hurriedly came down the palanquin and prostrated himself in front of Jada Bharata and asked, who are you? So, and he says, he saw also the sacred thread that are worn by the Brahmanas. And he says, whose son are you? And he says, I'm going to meet Kapila. Are you that Kapila himself? Who is none other than Mahavishnu's incarnation to bless us? And he says, I fear not the thunderbolt of Indra, nor the trident of the Rudra, nor the rod of Yama, nor the weapons of any divinities like Agni, Surya, Chandra, Vayu, and Kubera. But I am terribly afraid of the consequences of insulting an illumined personage belonging to a great and holy family. Therefore, please tell me all about yourself. I feel that you are really one possessed with unfathomable knowledge, hiding your spiritual power and enlightenment, and going about incognito like a dunce. For your words convey the meaning of Yoga Shastras and are too profound for our minds to grasp. So he says, how did he recognize? He says, your words are conveying the meaning of all the scriptures. Just what the scriptures say. And I can just see that in front of me. And not only that, your words are too subtle for the mind to grasp. And so he says, I am not afraid of the thunderbolt of Indra. The thunderbolt of Indra is the weapon, Indra's weapon. And nor the trident of Lord Shiva, nor the rod of Yama. Yama has a rod through which he prods people and brings them back. And, he kills them, and that means they die. And nor the weapons of any of the divinities like Agni, that is sun. Agni is fire. Surya is sun. Chandra is moon. Vayu, air. And Kubera. Kubera is the wealthiest person. But I am terribly afraid of the consequences of insulting an illumined personage belonging to a great and holy family. So, he says, I am not afraid of all these weapons. What am I afraid of? Insulting an illumined personage and a saint like you. Why? Because he has seen over and over again of what happens when you insult a great person, a sage. So you remember where the story started? Parikshit. And what did Parikshit do? Parikshit took a snake and put it around a sage. And that's where the insulting started. And look at what happened to him after that. So, one may ask this question. Why should you not insult? Oh, you say you can praise a great saint, but you should not insult them. Isn't that stupidity? So, we have to understand here one of the things that how karma works. These great saints, as we have seen in the case of Jadabharata, are not affected by any of the things that happens in this world. Just like other human beings, when they perform their actions, they also mostly they incur a lot of punya or merits and a little bit of papa. For example, when they walk, they will be killing some of the insects. When they breathe, they are killing the amoebas. So all this in one sense is papa, right? Or bad karma. So for them, neither the good karma is needed, nor the bad karma affects them. Why? Because they have reached that goal and they do not need any of these things, the help of any of these things. For us, the good karmas help us to move towards the goal. And the bad karmas will pull us down. That's why we need good karmas and bad karmas. And so, in their case, what do? They are not affected by neither one of them. So, since they do not want the effects of these, either the good karma or the bad karma, what do? They distribute it freely to people who want it. And they have the capacity to distribute also, because they have become one with the Supreme Consciousness. And they are above and beyond the law of karma and cannot affect them. So what do? So people who praise them, it's not that, you should praise them, but praise them means follow their example in life. Do good actions, do good things to others, and meditate, and try to reach the goal of being a human. So those people are given the punya, that is the merits. And the people who ridicule them, people who make fun of them, get their bad karmas. It's a law. It's not, they are not giving it on their own. It's a law. So if you make fun of, in one sense, if you make fun of anybody, leave alone be just that person being a saint. If you make fun of a person, what happens? Just think about this. Tomorrow, you go to the governor and make fun of him. What will happen? I don't want to talk about the president. They will just take you, the security service will come and just pull you out, throw you out of the place. So when we talk about ordinary being like who is living in this world, then what about an extraordinary being like a saint? So this is the natural law. So they freely distribute this. And the people who praise them get the good karma, and the people who make fun of them get the bad karma. And that's why he said, I'm not afraid of any of those weapons of Indra or Shiva or Yama, but I am afraid of ridiculing a great saint, a holy person, because I don't want to incur their curse. So therefore, he says, please tell me all about yourself. I feel that you are really one possessed with unfathomable knowledge, hiding your spiritual power and enlightenment, and going about incognito like a mad person. So that's why he says, you look like a mad person, but you are not. Why? Because your words convey the highest truths. And he says, I am myself on my way to Muni Kapila, the great sage Kapila, the incarnation of Mahavishnu, the teacher of all wise men, and an embodiment of yoga, to learn from him what constitutes the refuge for man in this transmigratory existence. It may be that you are that very Kapila going about incognito to see the condition of the world. How can a person tied to the household and without any spiritual enlightenment understand the ways of a master yogis like you? So he says, I'm going and I'm on my way to meet the great sage Kapila. And you might be Kapila himself who has come in incognito, right? And we know that because many a times people have explained this. And people have had experiences where, somebody just comes out of the blue and helps them. And many people have said about this that it has stopped being a coincidence, that we realize that Amma herself can take many forms and come to us in different forms and help us out. So he's saying a spiritual enlightened master can take any form and come in front of us. So, but how can I recognize, because being a householder and not having any spiritual enlightenment, understand this? And he says, in criticism, now he's arguing. In criticism of your denial of exhaustion, etc., to your body, I reply, by doing various administrative and military duties, I really feel tired. So I can guess that you too will feel exhausted by walking, carrying a load. This practical aspect of life based on actual experience, I accept as a fact. To deny it will be like denying the existence of pots with which watering is being done. And in cooking, the heat applied to the pot penetrates to the water in it. That heat affects not only the surface of the rice in it, but the very core of the grains. In the same way, owing to their mutual contact, the experiences of the body pass on through the inner layers of senses, pranas, and the mind to the Atman. So the experience of samsara by the Atman has to be accepted as real. See how beautifully he is arguing. He's saying, what did Jada Bharata say? I am not affected by all these experiences. So here, King Rahugana is asking this question. You say that you don't get exhausted, or you are not feeling anything. But it's like, denying the existence of pots with which watering is done. And what happens when you cook in a pot? The heat applied to the pot penetrates to the water, and as a effect, the rice in it gets cooked. So the very core of the grains gets cooked, is affected by the heat of the pot. So in the same way, the mutual contact of the experiences of the body is passed on through the inner layer of senses, pranas, and the mind to the Atman, to the consciousness. So the experiences of the samsara, the world, by the Atman has to be accepted as real. So you said these experiences were completely unreal. So now he's saying it is real. Why? Because it's the same argument he is saying. And he's saying, in answer to the criticism of the master and servant relationship, when King Rahugana said, who is the master? Who is the servant here? The master can become the servant, and the servant can become the master. That's what Rahugana said. Jada Bharata said. So now Rahugana is asking this question. King Rahugana, he is replying, though the master and servant relationship is temporal and artificial, when a man becomes the king, he becomes the ruler and protector of others. If one accepts the idea that in discharging his duties as a ruler is only carrying out the will of God, the objection of pounding the already pounded stuff does not arise in regard to these corrective acts for changing even the incorrigible. For whoever performs the worship of the Lord through swadharma is freed from all sins. So do you understand here what he's saying? He's saying that you said that the relationship between a master and servant is temporal and artificial. But suppose, imagine a man becomes a ruler. A jiva becomes a king. So he has to protect others. So when he accepts the idea that he is discharging his the rulership only as the will of God, and when I say that, you said that it's like pounding already the powdered stuff. There's no change going to happen. So how can you say that I am not doing my swadharma? That is my duty. I have to powder the powdered stuff, right? So I am doing just my duty. Regarding my offense of slighting a great man like you, I seek pardon of you. Out of your goodwill, deign to order things in such a way that I incur no sin. It may be said that you are not affected or perturbed by adoration or insult, as you are established in the attitude of universal friendship, even-mindedness towards all, and the non-identification with the body. But still an offender like me, even if he was as powerful as Sri Parameshwara, is bound to perish in consequence. So he said, look, when I made fun of you, I asked for forgiveness. But you say that you are not affected by insult or adoration, and you have the attitude of universal friendship. But even an offender like me, even though he may be as powerful as Lord Shiva, they are bound to perish in consequence of their actions, whatever they have done to ridicule such a great person. And now, the Brahmana, that is Bharata, Jada Bharata, said, though you are in spiritual ignorance, you try to speak like a man of unfailing knowledge, which, however, you are not. For a real knowing one will not take this relative existence with its differences of master, servant, etc. as a proved fact in determining what is real, as it is found to be merely temporal on reflection, and they call it an attribution of the thoughtless. But as you take it all as real, you are not the best among thinkers. So he says, completely kills Rahugana's arguments. And he says, though you speak like as if a great knowledgeable person, you know nothing. Because your spiritual ignorance comes out. Because why? He says a really knowing one, means one who has attained the truth, will not take this relative existence with its difference as a proved fact in determining what is real. So, how can you take what is unreal and prove it to be real? That's the question he's asking. You're taking the examples of things in this world which is totally unreal, and you're talking about what is real. And it is found to be merely temporal on reflection. So, but as you take it all as real, you're not the best among thinkers. And not only the world and its relation, but even the Vedic teaching dealing with the karma belongs to the realm of falsity for a thinker. O king, in the highly eulogistic Vedic passages dealing with rituals relevant to the householder's life, there will not generally be any discussion on the truth of the Atman, which is based in purity and righteousness. A person who is not able to grasp the phenomenality and the worthlessness of the happiness of waking life by applying an analogy of dream experiences will not be able to arrive at the truth even from the greatest Vedantic teachings. So he says, see, not only the world, and you can say even he's making fun of the Vedic teachings dealing with karma. It belongs to the realm of falsity for a thinker. Means a person who has attained the full knowledge of the Brahman. It is false. It doesn't exist for them. Even the Vedic teachings doesn't exist for them. Why? Because they have experienced it. They have become one with it. And so they have become one with it. And so there is no person to teach, there is no teacher, there is no student. That's why it is beyond that. And it's not that it is false for us. So here we have to understand, this is not for us. And we should not think like saying that, oh, this is, why should we apply all this in our lives? Because he's now here, Jadabharata says this is not, everything is false. In the Buddhist tradition, this is what happened to some of the people. Because of the Shunyavada. Shunyavada means everything is non-existent and there is only Shunya, means complete emptiness. So if everything is emptiness, then whatever you do in this world it doesn't matter, right? From emptiness comes emptiness. So why can't I kill somebody? Or why can't I drink? Or why can't I smoke? Or why can't I take drugs? That's also emptiness. But this cannot be applied in our lives. This is for a person who has achieved the supreme realization. For them, everything is false. So he's talking, Jadabharata is talking from the realm of a great realized soul. So these two are different stages. So you cannot compare it from the realm of a realized master. So in the life of Lord Shankara, Adi Shankara, there was a beautiful example. And the disciples of Lord Adi Shankara, what happened was Adi Shankaracharya, he were trying to imitate him. And whatever he ate, whatever he drank, they would imitate him. So after some time, at first, Shankaracharya kept quiet. Then he noticed this, and then he wanted to teach them a lesson. So he went to a house where, they had a nice feast arranged for them. And although Shankaracharya had told his disciples not to indulge in such things, as when they saw Shankaracharya eating all these things, they also ate. And the next thing, what happened was Lord Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, went to a blacksmith's hut. And in the hut, inside the hut of the blacksmith, what do blacksmiths do? They actually melt either iron or lead. So this blacksmith was melting in his in that fire some molten lead. So Adi Shankaracharya went and took the pot of the molten lead and drank it. And then he passed it to his disciples and said, okay, now drink it. And they ran. They cannot drink that. So similarly, you cannot apply those principles which are applicable only to the people who are realized. So when he says, even this Vedic teaching is a falsity for a thinker, thinker means one who has reached Brahman, the ultimate state of Brahman, that is realization, it is false for them. But as far as we are concerned, we have to understand it applies to us. And he says, if you look at the Vedic passages dealing with the rituals relevant to the householder's life, and there will not be any discussion on the truth of the Atman, that is the supreme consciousness. And a person who is not able to grasp the phenomenality and the worthlessness of the happiness of the waking life, by applying the analogy of dream experiences, will not be able to arrive at the truth, even from the great teachings of the Vedanta. So here you have to understand. He's saying, a person who cannot grasp the worthlessness of the happiness of waking life, when you are awake, the happiness that you are undergoing, and when you say that it is worthless, and you look at upon that spiritual master and say, what are you talking about? I'm always happy. And if I'm happy, what is your problem? Right? That is the question that is asked. So here, I remember when I was studying in the college, one time I saw a completely drunk person lying on the side of the road. And he was completely inebriated. And he could not even get up, so he was so drunk that he just fell. And he was lying near the one of the gutters. And his face was also filled with all the filth that was coming from the gutter. So I felt so sorry for him. And so I went there and thought that I will help him, and doing a great service. So I slowly went down first and removed the filth, and then I tried to wake him up and telling him, please come up. Do you know where you are lying? So you're lying in the filth. So the man said, just leave me alone. I'm so happy. I'm so in that state. He's happy because he doesn't have any sorrow. So he says, leave me alone. I'm drunk and I'm happy. What is your problem? So it's like this. When a great saint comes to help us, we are saying that, look, I'm so happy in my life, in this particular life. So why should I do any spiritual practice? I have a lot of money, I have a lot of friends, I have this, I have that. So I'm happy. So just leave me alone. So, but in order to understand the actual spiritual principles, one have to transcend and understand the worthlessness of that happiness. Because that happiness is always changing. It does not remain permanent. That's what happens. For a moment you might be happy, next moment can be several years or several minutes or several seconds. For that moment you might be happy, but the next moment you will start suffering. And it keeps changing. So once you understand the worthlessness of the happiness of waking life, so only then can you understand about the truth. So he's saying, it's like talking to somebody about the dream experiences and arriving at the truth. So he's saying, yesterday, just an example, one of the friends, he's explaining to a man is explaining to one of his friends. While I slept, a big tiger came chasing me. And I ran and ran and ran. And luckily, a hunter jumped out with a gun and shot the tiger. And the tiger died. And I escaped. So what? What is the meaning of that? That experience. It was a dream. It's of no value. So he's saying that person cannot arrive at the truth, even from the greatest teachings of the Vedanta. So unless a person who becomes mature and understand that these experiences one gets from the life, from your life, day-to-day life, is not real. So we have to understand that. So unless and until we realize that it is not true, all the experiences that we are going through is only changing, it's not permanent, and it is not also real. Real means it does not last, and it is not me. Why are we identifying with those experiences? Because it's happening to me, right? So, as Ramana Maharshi says, whenever somebody asks a question, oh Maharshi, I want to ask you this great question about what is the meaning of life and all these things. They are thinking that he will get a beautiful explanation about all these things. So he generally just gives one answer. He says, find out where the question comes from and who's asking this question. So as long as you are identified with all these things, that is going to affect you. And that's what he's saying, that even the greatest teachings of Vedanta will not be, you will not help you to arrive at the truth. So this is what Jadabharata says. So we will stop here for today and then continue in the next session. And I would like to announce that the next Tuesday, being also Kartika, that is Amma's monthly birth star, we will have first the class, followed by the Kartika celebrations, which is Manasa Puja, that is a mental worship of Amma's feet and Amma's form, followed by the bhajans. So the next Tuesday, it will be completely different in order, thanks to Kartika. Om Amriteshwariyai Namah. Devi Mata. Om Amriteshwari Devi Mata. Devi Mata. Okararupini Devi Mata. Om Amriteshwari Devi Mata. Omkararupini Devi Mata. Abhayapradayini Devi Mata. Abhayapradayini Devi Mata. Devi Mata. Devi Mata. Devi Mata. Devi Mata. Anadarashaki Devi Mata. Anadharashaki Devi Mata. Anadharashaki Devi Mata. Anadharashaki Devi Mata. Om Amriteshwari Devi Mata. Om Amriteshwari Devi Mata. Okararupini Devi Mata. Okararupini Devi Mata. Abhayapradayini Devi Mata. Abhayapradayini Devi Mata. 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 अनाथ रक्षकी देवी माता, अनाथ रक्षकी देवी माता, अनाथ रक्षकी देवी माता, अनाथ रक्षकी देवी माता, ओम अमृतेश्वरी देवी ओंकार रूपिणी देवी गणनायक सिद्धि विनायक मंगलमूर्ति स्वामी, मंगलमूर्ति स्वामी, हे गणनायक सिद्धि विनायक मंगलमूर्ति स्वामी, मंगलमूर्ति स्वामी, सिद्धि विनायक मंगलमूर्ति स्वामी, मंगलमूर्ति स्वामी, वरद विनायक नमो नमः, गणाधीशतु गुणाधीशतु वरद विनायक नमो नमः, हे गिरिजात्मज प्रदायक विघ्नेश्वर जय संकटनाशन, सुख करता नमो नमः। वरद विनायक नमो नमः। गणाधीशतु गुणाधीशतु वरद विनायक नमो नमः। हे चिंतामणि फलदायक बल्यालेश्वर जय विश्वेश्वर। लंबोदर तू सर्वेश्वर तू। सन्मतिदायक नमो नमः। गणाधीशतु गुणाधीशतु वरद विनायक नमो नमः। गणाधीशतु गुणाधीशतु वरद विनायक नमो नमः। हे महागणपति पाप विनाशक गणेश्वर जय विघ्न विनाशक। वरद विनायक नमो नमः। गणाधीशतु गुणाधीशतु 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 वरद विनायक नमो नमः। वरद विनायक नमो नमः। वरद विनायक नमो नमः। वरद विनायक नमो नमः। Krishna Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
Chalat Pinja Kesha, Tadit Pidavasa, Vrajastri Parita, Namaste Mukunda.
Jalapinjagesha, Talipidavasa, Rajasri Varida, Namaste Mukunda.
Chalat Pinja Kesha, Tadit Pidavasa, Vrajastri Parita, Namaste Mukunda.
Jalapinjagesha, Talipidavasa, Rajasri Varida, Namaste Mukunda.
Ghanashyama Varna, Manomohananga, Ramakandaramya, Namastubhyamisha.
Ghanashyama-varna, Manomohananga, Ramakandaramya, Namastubhyamisha.
Ghanashyama Varna, Manomohananga, Ramakandaramya, Namastubhyamisha.
Ghanashyama-varna, Manomohananga, Ramakandaramya, Namastubhyamisha.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
Hare Vasudeva, Prabhu Prema Rupa, Yashoda Tanuja, Subhande Deva.
Vasudeva, Prabhu Prema Rupa, Yashoda Tanuja, Shubham Dehi Deva.
Hare Vasudeva, Prabhu Prema Rupa, Yashoda Tanuja, Subhande Deva.
Hare Vasudeva, Prabhu Prema Rupa, Yashoda Tanuja, Shubham Dehi Deva.
Jagadvandya Murte, Surogida Kirte, Sadananda Shaure, Priyananda Vande.
Jagavandamurte, Surogida Kirte, Sadananda Shaure, Dayananda Vande.
Dayarupa Deva, Jara Janmanasa, Mahadevya Sevya, Namo Deva Deva.
Daya
Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
Chalat Pinja Kesha, Tadit Pidavasa, Vrajastri Parida, Namaste Mukunda.
Chalat Pinja Kesha, Tadit Pidavasa, Vrajastri Parida, Namaste Mukunda.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Kripa Purna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Namo Bala Krishna.
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 Devi Saraswati Ma. Devi Daya Garima, Amba Devi Saraswati Ma. Saraswati Ma. Amba Devi Saraswati Ma. Devi Daya Garima, Amba Devi Saraswati Ma. काली कपालिनी माँ दुर्गा भवानी माँ काली कपालिनी माँ अम्बराली कपालिनी माँ अम्बकाली कपालिनी माँ दुर्गा भवानी माँ काली कपालिनी माँ जगदोद्धारिणी माँ जगदोद्धारिणी माँ आनंद रूपिणी माँ अमृतानंद रूपिणी माँ अमृतेश्वरी मङ्गलम् प्रणमदा मुक्तिप्रदे मङ्गलम् भुवनेश्वरी मङ्गलम् सुरवीणा अमृतेश्वरी मङ्गलम् प्रणमदा मुक्तिप्रदे मङ्गलम् भुवनेश्वरी मङ्गलम् सुकृतिना हृदयेश्वरी मङ्गलम् हृदिलसत्तेजोर्मयी मङ्गलम् मृदुभाषिणी मङ्गलम् विजयदा प्रेमाहृदे मङ्गलम् विजयदा प्रेमाकृते मङ्गलम् विजयदा प्रेमाकृते मङ्गलम् मादा देवी अमृतानन्दमयी मादा परिदोद्धार निरन्तर हृदये अमृतानन्दमयी परमहंस पद निलये देवी अमृतानन्दमयी मादा अमृतानन्दमयी हे जननी जनि मरण निवारिणि अमृतानन्दमयी हे श्रुत जन परिपालिनि जयदा अमृतानन्दमयी मादा अमृतानन्दमयी सुरजन पूजित जय जगदम्बा अमृतानन्दमयी सहज समाधिषु धन्ये देवी अमृतानन्दमयी मादा अमृतानन्दमयी मादा अमृतानन्दमयी मादा अमृतानन्दमयी जय जय जगजननी वन्दे अमृतानन्दमयी मंगलारती माधव भवानी अमृतानन्दमयी मादा अमृतानन्दमयी माता अमृतानन्दमयी। जय बोलो सद्गुरु माता अमृतानंदमयी देवी की। असतो मां सद्गमय तमसो मां ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मां अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि